Let's be real. The Middle East is an incredibly complex place, right? The headlines seem to change by the minute. But what if all that chaos isn't so random? What if there's an ancient script that some people believe is playing out right now on the world stage? A kind of roadmap for the end of times.
So that's what we're going to dive into. We're going to unpack a very specific end-of-times narrative that some people feel draws a direct line from prophecies made centuries ago to the geopolitical conflicts we see today, especially what's going on between Iran and Israel.
Okay, first things first. It's really important to get that the idea of a final savior, that's not exclusive to just one faith. It's actually a theme you see pop up in many of the world's great traditions. It's this promise of restoration when things get really, really bad.
I mean, you look across the board, from the Shasyant in Zoroastrianism to the Kalki avatar in Hinduism, so many faiths are waiting for this one figure who's going to show up in a time of great injustice and basically usher in an era of peace. In Islam, that figure is known as Al-Mahdi.
So, who is Al-Mahdi? The name itself literally means the guided one. And according to the prophetic traditions, or hadith, he's a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad who is prophesied to fill the earth with justice and fairness at a time when it has been completely filled with oppression and tyranny.
Now, here's where things get interesting. Within Islam, there are two main views on who he is. Sunnis generally believe the Mahdi is a future leader who hasn't even been born yet. But in the Twelver Shia tradition, he's actually the 12th Imam, who was born way back in the 9th century and has been hidden by God, they call it a state of occultation, for over 1,000 years, just waiting for the perfect moment to reappear.
So the big question is, how would anyone know when he's arrived? Well, this narrative isn't just about a person. It's about a very specific sequence of events. The prophecies, they lay out a kind of roadmap, a series of signs that are supposed to happen right before the Mahdi appears.
It supposedly kicks off with major political instability after a ruler dies. Then, the Mahdi himself appears in Mecca. But here's the real confirmation, a supernatural sign. An army coming from Syria to attack him is miraculously swallowed up by the desert. This, right here, is said to be the undeniable event that proves who he is and gets people to rally to his side.
And another huge piece of this puzzle is the arrival of an army from the east, specifically from a region historically known as Khorasan, which today covers parts of Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. They'll be carrying black flags, which is a really significant symbol, and this prophecy is basically a call to action for believers to go and join his cause.
But wait, the Mahdi's appearance isn't the end of the story. Not even close. In fact, it's just the beginning of a final, world-shaking confrontation.
The prophecies describe this massive conflict called Al-Malhama al-Kubra, the Great War. And in this telling, it's this incredibly fierce battle between the Mahdi's forces and an alliance that the old texts call the Romans. Now, many people who interpret this today look at that term and think it's a clear reference to modern Western powers.
So after this great victory, the Mahdi's army goes on to conquer Constantinople. But right at this moment of triumph, a great deception is unleashed. A cry goes out that their ultimate enemy, the Dajjal, or the Antichrist, has finally appeared.
Now, even though that first rumor is just a fake-out, it basically sets the stage for the real deal. The sources say the Dajjal will then truly emerge in the east, and he'll start gathering his own forces while the Muslim army is heading back towards Syria.
And get this, the prophecies are incredibly specific about the Dajjal's army. The texts claim he will be followed by 70,000 Jews from Isfahan, and they'll form the very core of his forces. So just as this final epic battle is about to kick off in Damascus, the narrative takes this unbelievable turn. Isa bin Maryam, that's Jesus, son of Mary, is prophesied to actually descend from the heavens, his hands resting on the shoulders of two angels, appearing right at the eastern minaret of the Umayyad Mosque. And his arrival is the game changer. It's the decisive moment. He shows his support for the Mahdi by praying behind him. And at the very sight of Isa, the Dajjal just begins to dissolve like salt in water. Isa then pursues him and finally finishes him off at the gate of Lud, which is in modern-day Lud, Israel.
So, what's the ultimate geopolitical outcome of this cosmic battle, according to this interpretation? Well, it's stated very clearly. The defeat of the Dajjal and his army leads directly to the freeing of Palestine and the end of the state of Israel.
But the story doesn't end with war. In fact, that's not the point. According to the prophecies, what comes after this final battle is a complete transformation of the entire world. We're talking about an era of unparalleled justice and peace, all under the leadership of the Mahdi and Isa. This prophesied golden age is a total reset. All other religions will supposedly end, leaving only Islam. Wealth will be spread out so evenly that poverty just doesn't exist anymore. Justice will be absolute. And get this, even nature itself will be transformed. Predators won't hunt prey anymore, and kids will be able to play safely with snakes and lions.
And that brings us all the way back to the headlines we're seeing right now. For people who believe in this narrative, the intense tensions between Iran and Israel, the conflicts all across the Arab world, those aren't just a string of isolated political events. They see them as the prophesied signs, the precursors to the Great War and the Mahdi's arrival.
So ultimately, this ancient narrative completely reframes the modern world. According to the source, the real challenge for believers isn't about trying to predict a date on a calendar. It's really a question of spiritual discernment. In an age of what feels like overwhelming chaos and misinformation, the question isn't just what you believe, but whether you can recognize the truth when it finally appears.